You are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxshall, in which I chronicle my life and attempts to become a professional writer by, doing some writing daily, hopefully. Hello, today is Tuesday the 12th of, November 2024. It's NaNoWriMo Day 12 and you are listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And this is unusually early. It's only 1:30 in the afternoon as I record this, but I'm doing it now because I've actually been very productive in terms of writing this morning, which surprises both of us, I'm not going to lie. And I'm going to do more today. This isn't the end of it, but I thought it might be quite nice to get the podcast out now rather than sort of late at night when I'm finally admitting to myself I haven't done anything. So I'm working on chapter 37. It does need quite a lot of work. I have gone through the text now about 3 or 4 times on my laptop, and I have made considerable changes. And one of the changes I've made, I suppose, is to underline Ronnie's ruthlessness in the moment, in the need to get something done. And what it unfortunately means for my lovely characters is that somebody that I had planned to live is now going to die, and in quite a horrible way, because, why not make your characters suffer? That's what they're there for. It just came to me as a realisation whilst I was writing or rewriting a scene. It's one of the scenes I talked about the other day. It's one of the ones where Ronnie's having a conversation with someone who isn't going to survive. They are not a designated survivor. So however this plays out, even if they manage to talk the tree spirit into communicating that they now believe that the Yggdrasil plan is the plan that should be followed, the one that says there should be some designated survivors. We have he's not a soldier, but he's a trooper that's been working for Arbor Associates, and Ronnie didn't realise that he isn't a designated survivor. So whatever happens, however this plays out in the scenario, whether they manage to get the entity that advocates for them back into the tree network, this particular guy isn't going to survive. And it was that conversation. I kind of added a few bits. So I talked about the fact that in an emergency, so basically to interface with a tree, there need to be some physical considerations. So, for example, if I were to interface with a tree, I'm quite a wide chap. It would have to be a tree that's at least as wide as I am to successfully interface. But what Ronnie tells Shavar, the trooper that she's out, basically she's looking for a tree near the base, big enough to get Claire into. And the guy's going, why does it need to be that big? And she goes, well, technically it doesn't. If it's big enough to absorb Claire's head, then that will enable the consciousness of the being within her to transfer, but it means her body will die. And you know what? Claire's had a shit time. I don't really want that to happen. I'd quite like her to survive this. And the soldier's like, well, why would a tree absorb part of a person knowing it's going to die? And this is the bit I've added. Ronnie was saying, well, in the past, it would be a rite of passage for the younger tree entities to occupy a human, do a bit of exploring and kind of understand the Earth and the planet from the human's point of view. And they haven't done this for hundreds of years, but it's something they used to do. But as humans got more savage and the weapons became, guns and stuff became available, they kind of stopped doing it. So it used to be a rite of passage for the tree to occupy human, a young tree to occupy human and see a bit of the world. And in an emergency, if something happened, if they were injured and they weren't near enough a large tree to totally absorb the body, and thereby save both the human host and the tree spirit within them, they could absorb just the head. If the tree was wide enough to absorb the head of the human, then that would then the tree spirit would reintegrate with the tree network, but the human host would die. So that kind of answers Shavar's question as to why a tree would be prepared to kill a human host, and it was only in the instance that a tree spirit was going to die otherwise, because they don't particularly relish that kind of thing. what I've decided is going to happen. I think Claire is going to die in quite an unpleasant way, because why not give my characters a horror? She was going to be a survivor. I mean, she has had a horrible time. In fact, I don't know, I'm feeling a bit guilty now, so some of the horrible things that happened to her I might edit out of the second draft, because it seems like quite an awful thing to happen to someone if they're then not going to survive. But anyway, I've been exceedingly productive today, and I will do it again. So my plan is to keep reading through this draft on my laptop until I feel on the screen I can make no further changes. That's what I call my screen edit. And if I do a really good screen edit, the final sign off, which is where I print it out on paper and go through it line by line with a pen and a ruler or a bookmark, that hopefully won't take very long. I don't know if I'll get that done today, but if I stay as motivated as I am right at this moment, hopefully I'll get it done, this chapter finished today or tomorrow. The other thing I'm now thinking, because originally I was going to have the chapter of death, which is where basically it's related how all of the incidental characters die in the story. I was going to have that as the penultimate chapter, which is the next one I'm due to write. And then I kind of changed my mind and swapped it round so that it wouldn't be. I'm now thinking that it's the right place for this chapter again. Yes, I'm basically going to adjust my chapter plan, and the next chapter I write will be, as I say, what I call the chapter of death. It's the chapter where something happens to the majority, where we find out what happened to Ronnie's parents and a lot of the bit players, a lot of the smaller characters, a lot of the secondary and tertiary characters. What's going to happen to the Prime Minister and stuff like that, which I was going to have him shooting his family to prevent them having to die of suffocation in fear. But then I kind of thought, yeah, that's a little bit similar to what Frobisher does to his family in the final episode of Torchwood Children of Earth, which I'm a huge fan of. So he's going to have his entire family round to dinner, and it's going to have a slow-acting poison that makes them go to sleep and then not wake up. So yes, that's his plan. Anyway, so all very cheerful. So that's what I'll be writing in the next chapter, hopefully starting the next couple of days. Anyway, that's me waffling on enough. I shall stop now, but I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully to tell you that this chapter is nearly in the bag. Thank you for listening. Take care. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, presented by Richard A. Boxall. Thank you for tuning in to my random ramblings, and if you'd like to know more about me or my projects, visit my link tree at linktr.ee/Richard Wright, capital R, capital W. Thank you for listening.